Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Today's Parent, where we connect you with experts and provide you with information to make your parenting journey a bit more easier. I'm your host, Christine Casina. On today's show, we are talking about first aid, how to keep our kids and toddlers safe at home. Did you know that 3 out of 4 parents, if something was to happen at home, 3 out of 4 parents will not be able to save their child. So this show is important because it's going to equip you with tips that might help you save your child. In today's show, we have James Mochama from ePlus, and he'll be sharing with us what hazards are there at home and what tips we need to have handy when it comes to first aid. Welcome to the show. James Mochama.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
First aid. Why is this important? Why is it important for us to have first aid skills?
First aid is so important as life itself. Life is so important in the sense that the moment you lose it, you don't get it anywhere else.
Very true.
If you walk to any supermarket in the world, the largest supermarket, in one of the shelves, you can't find life. So the moment you lose it, that is it. You never gain it back. And now, when it comes to first aid, that is the first ingredient that you put across to make sure that life is restored wherever there is a challenge to life.
Very true.
So the importance of having first aid is, man for many years has created an environment where he's safe, he's comfortable, although he has faced many challenges. And these challenges come in terms of trauma, critical illnesses within his safe environment. So by building a home, by having a nice compound, it's never safe until and unless you make it safe. And these are now the issues that we need to handle as first aid, that within our own environment, what is it that makes the environment a challenge to us in terms of trauma, in terms of critical illnesses, the illnesses that do come up and they pose a challenge to our lives.
Yeah.
So in terms of trauma, there are falls, there are accidents that do happen, and then now there is questions, what do I need to do to make my home safe?
Yeah.
And now that's why when it comes to learning first aid, the aims of learning first aid. Why is first aid important? Number one, it's to save a life. Number two is to promote recovery. Number three is to prevent injuries from getting worse. And you find that number three is supported by number two
is supported by number one.
Because by preventing injuries, you're promoting recovery. By promoting recovery, it means you're saving a life. And those three fundamental points are very important.
Very, very important.
To enable us learn first aid. And when it comes to first aid, what is it that is required? It simply means it's myself and what's around me. And also the principles that have been done a research. Guys have done a research. They've come up with policies, guidelines that in a particular situation, this is the procedure on how it goes.
Right.
So the materials that we have within our homestead are very important. We use locally available materials to save our life. Then the principles, what guides you? What do you do when it comes to an emergency?
Yeah.
Without that, then you'll get doomed. You find that such a structure, it's a resource, but I do not have information.
Yeah.
And remember, information is power. So in terms of the principles, you find there is information that is put across, which makes now the living environment very safe for parents and
for their children.
Mr.
Mochama, in your line of work, what kind of hazards do you see, or in your opinion, are there in the home setting? Talking about environments, let's talk about the home setting. What hazards are there in the home?
Quite a number. One of them is the source of light in terms of electricity. That's a challenge that we use. We have got sockets within our homes.
Very true.
Yeah.
And little babies love those sockets.
They love those sockets. You find, if they find any object, they would want to move around with it and find a place where they can fix it.
Very true.
And the first place is in their mouth.
Yeah.
And that causes a challenge. If they can't put it in their mouth, it's in their nostrils or in their ears.
Yes.
Or they move around and they find a small hole in the wall in a form of a socket, and they would want to find out, it moves inside, and how far can it move?
Very curious. They're
without
very
having
curious.
any idea that this is a good conduct of
That would be
heat.
a terrible accident.
Dangerous one. Okay. The other one is about the water that we use. The containers that contain liquids like water, they're dangerous. You have water in a basin, and you have children at home. You have infants. You have toddlers who are very active around. They're running. They
They're
get
crawling.
in, and that becomes a danger to them. Yeah. And as they crawl, they get hold of a container. They want to see inside. There's a shadow. Who is this? Like me. They get in, and then they drown. By the time you run from the kitchen, where is my baby?
Something has happened. God
Something
forbid.
has happened now. You scream. So screaming is not going to help, but putting safety precautions first saves a lot. It saves a life.
Is it possible for a child to drown in the toilet?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Depending on the kind of toilet one has, even the modern ones that we have, it's possible. Head first, you can't rescue.
Yeah.
A child hits the head against the wall of the toilet, sustains head injury. Crying without the parent or the maid realizing that there's a head injury here.
There's something serious that
by
has
time
happened.
6 hours, it's 5 o'clock, mama has come home. How come the baby is crying? Baby could be hungry, let me breastfeed.
Yeah.
But the baby is not breastfeeding. When you take good history, you realize that there is trauma that has been sustained, there is brain injury. By the time the child is taken to hospital, there's a brain damage that has taken place, and that becomes
too late.
a challenge. A child ends up being to ICU or even losing her life.
Oh my goodness.
See that?
Hot water around the house.
Hot water around the house, the medicine that we are given from the hospital. Of course, we are given medicine to help us feel better.
Yeah.
But now if you keep it somewhere and a child goes around and finds, oh, this is a bottle, mom just giving me this using a spoon. Let me see how it is. The child takes a whole bottle, and that becomes a danger. So by the time someone is realizing there's an empty bottle here, what was in the bottle? Medicine.
Very dangerous.
Very dangerous. So by the time you realize, now I need to do something, it becomes a challenge.
You know, I've just thought about another one, a common one in the home, detergents.
Detergents, yes. Quite a number of them.
And the babies are very curious. You know, sometimes you put them under where you think they will not reach, maybe under the sink or somewhere, a cupboard that they can, go there and struggle until they screw it open.
Or even accidentally, someone can pick it from a safe place. Just put it somewhere. No, let me attend to my phone, it's ringing. Or let me put it in a charger. Let it continue charging, and then a child comes across such a detergent or a substance, and then injection is done.
Yeah.
Liquids, paraffin, has caused challenges. Sharp objects which are left unattended to within the house, they become dangerous. Someone is just trying to chop some mbogas and the knife is left there. So the child
millisecond is enough.
Yeah.
It's enough for the child to grab it and something happens.
Absolutely. So a child can tamper, and then due to poor positioning of the knife, and then there's self-injury, and becomes a challenge at home. The food, the porridge, all right? The hot liquids that we prepare. Let me warm the tea for my kid. Let me warm milk for the kid. So as you warm it, you put it there, let it cool. But what happens around the child is active, moving up and down. What is this? Burns do come in. Hot flames, like jikos which are left open and unattended to. Or even with someone here, there's a jiko that is on here, you remove something from the jiko, you leave it open, and the child wants to discover what is this that is really giving us a lot of heat here. Can I sit on it and see why is the sufuria coming out of it? Not crying. So let me also give it a try. I mean, that comes into their mind. Yeah, because when they see you taking a sufuria off the jiko, it's kind of a game to them that you're doing a game, so they also want to do the same. Yeah. Let me touch it and send that.
That would be terrible.
That becomes a terrible accident within the home. Yeah.
You know, especially with toddlers and younger babies, doors can be such a hazard. They easily bang their fingers, in between doors.
Absolutely, especially the crawling ones, as they're trying to come up, they want to support themselves. Yeah. And then in between the hinges, they put their fingers and then the door rolls, and then the only thing that can help is the scream, and by the time you realize the scream, there's trauma. Something that could have been prevented. The staircase is where we live. If we don't take care about our environment, if a child misses a staircase or rolls down, there's trauma to the body, especially the head, the chest, the limbs can get broken, and that becomes a challenge. And most of these fractures, they may not tell you, but they continue crying. So if you are not keen, that's when you discover there's a deformity, there's an abnormal shortness of one limb. What happened? When you get the history, no, my child fell, or that's what I'm told. Because again, there's that phobia that if I give you the exact information, I might lose my job, or I might be beaten. So I'll try to beat her around and say, no, tangu jana, maybe since yesterday the child has been crying, but I'm trying to cover up. And that's another area whereby you don't get the real facts in time.
You know, a friend of mine, I've remembered her, when her child was small boy, around 1 year and 1.5 years, 2 years.
Yeah.
A common thing we don't think about around the home, furniture can be a real hazard.
Absolutely.
So this boy was trying to climb up the cupboard, and they fell. You know, him and together with the cupboard, and they fell on him.
You know, for kids, when they see you removing something from a cupboard, to them that's a very interesting game. So how come you're making it up there and I can't make
it up there?
Without bearing in mind that this object is going to fall on me. So because of their weight, they go up and then it falls on them. Then it causes a crash injury. And that becomes now a challenge. And that's when first aid is fundamental in our homes. And not only in our homes, even in our schools, along the road, everywhere, first aid is important.
In fact, the way you've put it, first aid is fundamental in our homes. That's how we are going to take a short break. And when we come back from the break, you're going to take us through what we need to do, or the first aid skills that we need to have for the different hazards around the home, so we can be well equipped to do the first thing that you said, to save lives.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after the break with James Mochama from E+, who will then share with us the first aid tips that we need to have. Please don't go anywhere. Welcome back to today's episode of Today's Parent. We hope by the end of this show you're going to get tips that are possibly going to save somebody's life, and you'll be better equipped after this show. In today's show, we have James Mochama from E+, and we've been talking about the hazards at home. And at this point in time, we are going to talk about the do's and don'ts when it comes to first aid, and he's going to share a few demos around the house, what we can do when accidents happen. Mr. Mochama,
yes,
let us start from choking.
Choking. Great. Before we even touch or talk about choking, the first thing that is supposed to be done by the person who is at home, one needs to have the emergency numbers.
Emergency numbers, that's very important.
Emergency numbers, yes. You call in an expert, a professional who is going to handle any kind of emergency. Now, this is a critical situation. You find that there is the parent, there is the emergency team. When there is a critical illness or injury at home, who is to be called first? Is it the parent?
The help, for example, would call...
The house help will definitely call the mom.
Yeah, the mother of the baby.
The mom will take 2-3 hours to respond home. Whereas, if you call the emergency team first, they'll be there in less than 15-20 minutes.
Do you have these numbers? I'm sure you have these numbers.
We have those numbers.
Okay.
And the numbers are very simple. If I can give them out.
Please do.
0700 395 395. 0700 395 395.
Okay.
And 0738 395 395. And the last one is 1199.
1199.
Those are emergency numbers. They work 24/7. In our emergency dispatch center, which is well equipped by professional dispatchers who are medical personnel. Once one makes a contact or a call to our emergency center, they'll be able to take your contacts, your phone number in case of any disconnection, your location, and then what is the issue on the ground. Then they'll take you through, do 1, 2, 3. If it's a critical emergency, the nearest ambulance will be sent to the scene. Pick the victim to the nearest hospital, and then the parent now to be contacted later. See, that saves a life other than going the other way around, call mama or baba first.
Right. Yeah. But you know, Mr. Mochama, for most of us, the first instinct is to want to do something right away.
Absolutely. You'd want to do the right thing first time.
Yeah.
But do you have the information? As I said, information is power. And that's what we want to give today. That once you have the right information, you have the right skills, you have the right knowledge, you can be able now to intervene. The most important thing is the intervention. And intervention number 1 is make a contact with the emergency team.
Right.
Intervention number 2 now, the person present, you and I who is present at that particular time, do intervene. What is it that you can do? If you don't have the skill, if you don't have the knowledge, then you get doomed. You're not saving the situation. You're making it worse.
You could make it worse.
If you make it worse, then you're not saving a life. And that's why it's important to have that information. Now, to go back to our topic, drowning. What is drowning? It's simply getting submerged into a liquid, which can be water, in the house. What is supposed to be done? The thing is, once you realize a child or an infant has drowned, the thing is, find out and check the airway. Is it open? Is this child breathing? For example, if this is the child that I've found in a basin full of water, try to stimulate, hey baby, are you okay? If there is a cry, assess this type of a cry that is being produced by the baby. If it's a child who is crying, then it means either the airway is now open or partially blocked.
Right.
Because you can hear some noises coming out. If it's partially blocked and then you're on several hands, now you need to have the skill and the knowledge of maintaining it open so that now you reduce the dangers. Right? Now, there are things that we're going to do. How do you make sure that the airway is patent? You find that a child who has drowned, most people, what they do is they cradle babies in that position, and that means the airway is compromised, which is a challenge.
Right.
Whereas you're supposed to have the baby in that position, then try to open up the air. Okay? Right? For experts now, when they come, you can have your baby in that position and observe. You can see the way I'm holding and supporting the back of the head. By doing this, if you let it go deeper, again the tongue of the child becomes
a hazard by itself.
It blocks the airway. Whereas my intention is to have an open airway because this baby needs oxygen. So if I extend up, let it go down, the tongue falls back and it blocks the airway. It makes the challenge worse because the trachea itself has got a special mechanism of going into spasms when there's a foreign body which has been introduced.
Right.
It closes itself. So there's little amount of water that goes down into the lungs. So forcing or trying to push the tummy up so that the water comes out does not help. So the first thing is to open up and maintain an open airway, remain calm, keep the baby warm. When help comes, tell that person or instruct that person, call an ambulance. Then at home also have ambulance numbers well labeled. As one is entering, these are the emergency numbers. Please call for me an ambulance. Then the two will be called, give out the information. There's a baby here who was drowned. The baby is crying and I need help. Give the location where you are and then you'll be assisted.
So with drowning, the only thing a parent or caregiver needs to do, or we need to do, is to find a way to open the airwaves and keep them open, and then call the emergency number.
As you keep that now, you remain calm and continue observing. Right? As you continue observing, when you remain calm, the child will be looking at your eyes. Are you panicking? If you panic, the child will also be in a panic mode. But if you remain calm and you are comforting, the child will say, no, the child will also be calm. This is the safety that I need. I'm in safe hands. And that makes the situation calm. Now, the emergency team will arrive and they take over from there.
Right.
Yeah.
On the same topic of drowning, sometimes what happens, like when you go on, you could go on a family vacation and something happens, or even in the pool when people go over the weekends, you know, in these entertainment spots and they're swimming.
Yeah.
Then a child doesn't drown, but struggles to swim, and then they take in some water. Sometimes what we assume as parents, okay, something has not happened, they haven't drowned, so they're okay. But I hear there's something called secondary drowning. How does that happen?
Now, the secondary drowning comes as a result of not fully getting into the water, but one has taken in some little amount of water.
Okay.
Then there's coughing. The coughing now comes as a result of the reflex from the trachea. If the coughing is there, encourage that child to continue coughing.
Okay.
Because by doing so, that's an effort that is being put to push out any foreign substance in the form of water that is along the airway to be expelled out. So the child will cough, 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 and then reach somewhere. Are you okay now? Yes, I'm okay. That means the coughing has assisted. It's also a nice mechanism of clearing and maintaining an open airway. So encourage the child always to continue coughing, coughing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until and unless, if it goes worse, that now the child becomes unconscious. That's when now again the scale changes now. What do? You lay the casualty down, maintain an open airway, check the breathing. If it's not breathing now, that's when you can breathe for that particular child as you wait for the ambulance or the emergency team to arrive.
For the young kids, they're always jumping up and down, breaking, you know, sometimes they break their bones, a broken ankle, a broken leg. What can you tell parents when it comes to broken bones?
Now, at home, there are several accidents that do take place whereby children do sustain upper limb fractures or lower limb fractures. The first sign is a child will start crying endlessly, and that will tell you there is a challenge. You try to feed the child does not want to be fed. You try to move, you turn to a particular direction, the child cries, and that makes you realize there is a problem here. If you try to expose now that area, remove the clothes gently. If the clothes have a challenge, get scissors, and this is one thing that need to have a first aid kit at home. Cut off the clothes and then expose that area. If it's the left limb, expose it and see a deformity. You will see it, especially for kids. You may not see completely. They can have what we call a green stick fracture, but you see there's a swelling and there's pain. In that particular case, when it comes to first aid, what you do is you use the locally available materials. You may not have the splints, but you have materials, you have boxes around. We have got slippers in the house that we can use. You can use even books. Fold a book nicely, put it underneath, and then tie it. You may not have a crepe bandage at home. Use even a shoelace to immobilize that limb.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
All right.
You may not have a triangular bandage, but use a lasso, use a baby shawl that is at home. Fold it, if it's in a rectangle or a square, fold in one side so that you make a triangle and then form a triangular bandage, immobilize that upper limb.
Right.
If it's the lower limb, again, the same. Just use a cotton, immobilize the leg nicely. Do not overstretch it. Do not turn it. The position that you found in, just place something underneath and then tie it nicely. Use the other leg to bring them together so that you reduce the movement, which is going to trigger more pain. And remain calm. As one does that, give a painkiller if you have it. If you've called for an ambulance, wait for the team to arrive.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Muchama, we have to wrap up today's show. Okay. I would want you to share with parents the top tips that come to mind when it comes to first aid at home. What tips can you share? The do's and don'ts, just quickly, and the must-haves at home.
Good. The do's, number one, is have emergency numbers within the house clearly labeled. Let it be the clock of the house as one enters. These are the emergency numbers. Then number two, have an emergency door, an exit. That in case of anything, there's an exit, not only one entry and then it's again the exit. have it. Then number two, have the knowledge. Whoever is within the house, make sure that they are covered, in the sense that you've got ambulance membership within that, whoever,
Okay.
for every member, either the normal people within the family
That they
or
have the
any
emergency
visitors,
numbers.
they have the
The
emergency numbers. Now, those emergency numbers, they help in case of anything. One is able to respond, and even if I move out of the house, I know I am safe in case of anything.
I have these numbers I can call.
Absolutely. Then have materials for reading. Those who are able to read, they can go through that in case of anything, in case of burns, in case of choking, this is what I can do. If one gets stuck, through those emergency numbers, contact the nearest ambulance provider.
But
like
does,
now EMS.
even before we get to calling in the ambulance, does E+ have first aid training? Do you provide first aid training?
We do offer first aid training in our training school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a training school?
Yes, there's a training school, and our first aid takes 1 day, and we
Right.
encourage all members to train in that, because you're given basic knowledge on first aid.
I'm sure a lot of mothers were listening and wondering if they can bring in their helps for, and themselves and their family members.
Absolutely.
So that is very useful.
Yeah, we even have a course for house helps.
You do?
Yeah, we take them through on first aid up to basic level, basic life support. That's a special training that in case of an emergency, what they're supposed to do, they even go and do cardiopulmonary resuscitation, do now the chest interventions in case the baby is not breathing. You don't watch and scream. Land to the chest and do the chest compressions. How are they done? How do you go about it?
Right.
Until the emergency team arrives. So
you offer that kind of training?
We offer that.
That is good to know. Yeah. And the training takes what, 1 day?
It takes 2 days.
2 days.
2 days, yeah. Very fundamental in a home setup, and that's one aspect that can make a home environment safe. You can have a gun, but without these skills and knowledge, then the gun is not helping at all.
Mr. Muchama, with that, thank you so much for coming in to share these tips. I know for the parents who are watching this will be very useful. We thank you for your time and for your expertise.
Welcome.
And with that, we come to the end of today's show. We were talking about first aid and how we can up our skills at home so we can become prepared in case of any emergencies. The numbers will be shared, the emergency numbers will be shared at the bottom of your screen. In case of any emergency, make sure you save these numbers for future use. We've been here in studio at Little Cribs, the home of fun, exciting, and durable kids furniture. If you're looking for parenting info, including when it comes to first aid, the tips that you need to have at the top of your fingertips, we have them on our website, www.supermamas.co.ke. I have been your host, Christine Kasina. It's been a pleasure having you, and we look forward to having you in our next show. See you next time.